What if I told you that you've already deleted over 1,200 hours from your life this year, and you didn't even notice? That's 50 full days, gone, forever. And here is what makes it haunting. You weren't necessarily sleeping or lying on the couch for all of it. You were busy, you were moving, you were getting things done. But at the end of the day, you felt that same hollow weight in your chest. The feeling that despite all the effort, you're exactly where you started. You've been told you're lazy. You've been told you lack willpower. You've been told you just need to want it more. But as your mentor, I'm here to tell you that's a lie. You aren't lazy. You are the victim of a highly engineered trillion-dollar system designed to keep you in a state of perpetual motion without ever reaching a destination. You are trapped by 7 invisible habits that masquerade as productivity, social connection, or staying informed. By the end of this video, the fog will lift. We are going to dissect the specific psychological traps that are draining your life force, and I'm going to give you the exact framework to reclaim those 1,200 hours. Stay with me, because what you're about to hear is going to feel like an attack on your current routine. And that is exactly why you need to listen. Before we dive into the first habit, we have to understand why these are invisible. Your brain is an efficiency machine. It wants to automate as much as possible to save energy. This is how habits are formed. But in the modern world, your evolutionary survival instincts are being hijacked. And your brain cannot distinguish between the dopamine hit of a meaningful achievement and the dopamine hit of a notification. To your neurology, they feel the same, until they don't. This is why you feel exhausted at 5 p.m., even if you haven't produced anything of value. Your brain has been running at 100% capacity, processing junk data, switching contexts, and fighting for focus. You aren't lacking energy, you are leaking it. Imagine a bucket with 7 holes in the bottom. You can keep pouring water in, motivation, coffee, self-help books, but until you plug the holes, the bucket will always be empty. Let's plug the first hole. The average person touches their phone 2,617 times a day. We call it checking, but in the world of behavioral psychology, it's known as intermittent reinforcement. It's the same mechanism that makes slot machines the most addictive tool in a casino. You don't know what you're going to find when you swipe down, but the possibility of finding something interesting keeps you pulling the lever. Passive scrolling is the silent thief. It happens in the micro moments. You're waiting for the elevator, you're standing in line, you're in a 30-second transition between tasks. You pull out the phone, you think it's just a minute, but every time you do this, you are training your brain to reject boredom. And boredom is the gateway to deep thought. When you kill your boredom, you kill your creativity. You're essentially paying for a few seconds of distraction with hours of potential genius. This habit doesn't just take your time, it takes your ability to think for yourself. This is perhaps the most expensive habit you have. We live in the era of the great switch. You're working on a report, a notification pings, you check it, you reply, and you go back to the report. You think that interruption cost you 10 seconds. You're wrong. Research from the University of California, Irvine, shows that it takes an average of 23 minutes and 15 seconds to return to the original task with the same level of focus. If you check your phone or your email 3 times an hour, you're never in a state of high-level focus. You're operating in a state of attention residue, where part of your brain is still thinking about the message you just read while you're trying to do deep work. This is why you feel busy but produce mediocre results. Because you are paying a 23-minute tax on every 10-second distraction. Over a lifetime, this tax adds up to years of lost potential. High achievers don't have more time than you. They just have fewer fragments. This is the sneakiest habit of all because it feels so good. It's called productive procrastination. This is when you spend 3 hours color-coding your calendar, researching the perfect app, watching another tutorial, or organizing your workspace, instead of doing the one thing you actually need to do. Your brain loves this because it releases dopamine from the feeling of progress without the risk of failure. When you plan, you can't fail. When you research, you can't be rejected. But here is the hard truth. Planning is not doing. Researching is not building. If your goal is to write a book, or when you spend the morning looking at different types of pens, you haven't worked, you've played. This habit keeps you in a state of perpetual preparation. You're always getting ready for the life you want, but you never actually start living it. We have been sold the hustle culture lie that if you aren't grinding 24/7, you aren't trying hard enough. This creates a habit of pushing through extreme fatigue. But here is what the science says. Pushing through exhaustion makes you 40% less efficient and significantly increases your error rate. When you operate in a state of chronic fatigue, your body is flooded with cortisol, the stress hormone. Cortisol shuts down the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for logic, long-term planning, and decision-making. You essentially become dumber. And you spend 4 hours doing a task that should take 45 minutes because your brain is running on fumes. Strategic rest is not a luxury. It is a biological requirement for high performance. If you don't schedule time to recover, your body will eventually schedule time for a burnout. How many hours this week did you spend doing things you didn't want to do, with people you don't particularly like, because you felt a sense of obligation? This is the social debt habit. We say yes to the coffee meeting, yes to the extra project, and yes to the social event because we are afraid of the awkwardness of saying no. But every time you say a weak yes to someone else, you are saying a strong no to yourself. You're telling your subconscious mind that everyone else's time and everyone else's goals are more important than your own. And this drains your mental energy long before the event even happens. You spend hours dreading it and hours recovering from it. This habit turns you into a spectator in your own life, acting out a script written by other people's expectations. Many people wear perfectionism as a badge of honor. "I'm just a perfectionist," they say. No, you are afraid. Perfectionism is just a high-end suit that fear wears. It is the habit of spending 10 hours on a project that was 90% done in 2 hours. You spend the remaining 8 hours tweaking fonts, moving margins, and second-guessing your work. Why? Because as long as it isn't perfect, you don't have to ship it. As long as you don't ship it, the world can't judge it. Perfectionism is a defensive mechanism designed to protect your ego from criticism. But the market doesn't reward perfection. It rewards completion. The person who ships 10-80% perfect projects will always beat the person who is still working on one perfect project that never sees the light of day. The final invisible habit is the most toxic to your soul, the spectator mindset. This is the habit of spending your mental energy evaluating other people's lives. Whether it's through celebrity gossip, office politics, or scrolling through the highlight reels of people you went to high school with, you're playing the role of the critic while they are the actors. Every minute you spend talking about someone else's success or laughing at someone else's failure is a minute you aren't investing in your own growth. There is a gossip tax on your mind. It makes you small. It makes you reactive. High performers are so busy building their own empires that they don't have the time or the interest to comment on yours. Move from the stands onto the field. Stop being a commentator and start being a creator. Now that the 7 traps are visible, they lose their power over you. But awareness is not enough. You need a system. I call this the sovereignty protocol. It's about taking back the crown of your own attention. First, you must implement friction design. If you want to stop the digital slot machine, you have to make it hard to use. Put your phone in another room. Delete the apps that don't serve you. Make the bad habits difficult and the good habits easy. Second, adopt the single-tasking mandate. For at least 90 minutes a day, you operate in a vacuum. No notifications, no tabs, no music with lyrics. Just you and the work. This is where the 1% live. Third, and most importantly, you must define your minimum viable day. What are the 3 things that, if completed, would make today a success? Focus on those and treat everything else as noise. You can finish this video and go right back to the slot machine. You can let the fragments of other people's lives continue to tear your focus apart. Or you can decide right now that your time is the most valuable currency you own, and you are done spending it on things that leave you broke. Write down the one trap you recognized most in yourself in the comments below. Don't write a paragraph. Just name it. Recognition is the first step toward execution. I've built a specific roadmap for the discipline system that makes these fixes permanent. It's the next logical step in your journey. And it's linked on your screen right now. If you're ready to stop being busy and start being productive, I'll see you over there. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to stay in the loop of high-performance psychology. The hours are ticking. What are you going to do with the ones you have left?